Hello, my name is Jeremiah Matos, and I'll be performing I've Been to the Mountaintop by Martin Luther King. I'm delighted to see each of you here tonight in spite of storm warning. You reveal that you are determined to go on anyhow. Something is happening in Memphis. Something is happening in our world. As you know, if I were standing at the beginning of time with the possibility of general and panoramic view of the whole human history, and the Almighty said to me, Martin Luther King, which age would you like to live in? I would take my mental flight by Egypt, through, or rather across the Red Sea, through the wilderness and on towards the Promised Land. And in spite of its magnificence, I wouldn't stop there. I would move on by Greece and take my mind to Mount Olympus and see Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes assemble around the Parthenon as they discuss the great and eternal issues of reality. But I wouldn't stop there. I would go on to the great heyday of the Roman Empire. I would see developments around there through various leaders and emperors. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even go to the day of the Renaissance and get a quick picture of all that the Renaissance did for the cultural and aesthetic life of man. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even go by the way that the man for whom I named had his habitat, and would watch as Martin Luther tacked his 95 thesis on the door at the church in Wittenberg. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even come on up to 1863 and see a vacillating president by the name of Abraham Lincoln finally come to the conclusion that he had to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even come up to the early 30s and see a man grappling with the problems of the bankruptcy of this nation and come with an eloquent cry that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. But I wouldn't stop there. Strangely enough, I would turn to the Almighty and say, if you allow me to live just a few years in the second half of the 20th century, I will be happy. Now that's a strange statement to me, because the world is all messed up. The nation is sick, trouble is in the land, confusion all around. That's a strange statement. But I know somehow that only when it's dark enough you can see the stars. And God is working on this period of this 20th century in a way that some men, in some strange way, are responding. Something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up. And wherever they are assembled today, whether they are in South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, or Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same. We want to be free. And another reason that I'm happy to live in this period is that we have been forced to a point that we are going to have to grapple with the problems that men have been trying to grapple with through history. But the demands didn't force them to do it. Survival demands that we grapple with them. Men for years now have been talking about war and peace. But now no longer can they just talk about it. It is no longer a choice between violence or nonviolence. It's nonviolence or non-existence. That is where we are today. And in the human rights revolution, if something isn't done, and in a hurry, to bring the colored peoples of this world out of their long years of poverty, their long years of hurt and neglect, then the whole world is doomed. Now I'm just glad that God has allowed me to live in this period and to see what is unfolding. And I'm glad that He's allowed me to be in Memphis today. Always anchor our economic external action with the power of economic withdrawal. Now, we are poor people individually. We are poor when you compare us to the white society in America. We are poor. Never stop and forget that collectively, that means all of us together. Collectively, we are the richest nation of this world. Did you know that? After you leave the US, West Germany, France, and I can name the others, the Negro collectively are one of the most richest nations of this world. That's more than than all of the exports in the United States, and more than the national budget of Canada. Did you know that? That's power right there, if we know how to pool it. We don't need to argue with anybody. We don't need to go around with our bad words and cursing. We don't need bricks and bottles. We don't need Molotov cocktails. We need to go to these stores and to these massive industries and say to them, God has sent us by here to say to you that you are not treating his children right. And we have come to make sure that the first item on your agenda is fair treatment, where all of God's children are concerned. And if you are not prepared to do so, then we have an agenda that we must follow. And that is economic withdrawal from you. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But I'm not concerned about that now. Because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not worried about that now. Because he's allowed me to the mountaintop. And I've looked over. And I've seen the promised land. I might not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land. I am happy tonight. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the coming and the glory of the Lord.